to take over the first Friday in June and every month going forward so that you know when to look for me with the lives. I know it's summertime almost here. It's late spring because I just got a delivery from a good friend of mine, one of the Sunday So-and-sos. She works at a strawberry farm where they pick the strawberries, and she brought me strawberries, a gallon bucket of strawberries I asked her to bring straight out of the field. They're still warm. It's amazing. Oh, they smell so good and they taste so good. So it is getting on to be summertime. The other great thing about this month, as far as Color My World goes, is that if you're at that stage, you're going to get your entire center put together. And I know that it's can feel stressful because I felt it as I was trying to put it together. Will all of this come together? Will it work? Will all these round things, are they going to work? And I am so happy to see pictures, and I'm going to share a few of those with you as people are starting to put up their finished centers and get those on the forum so we can see them. And it's just, and from here on, it's easy. At this point, the rest is making buildings. You know how to do that. They're not difficult going forward. And I've been asked, and I am going to do this in a month or two. I'm going to do a blog post, and we'll have I'll make up a document with the sizes for those four corners where the tall buildings go, where the skyscrapers go. Wendy calls those skyscrapers. And there's the Eiffel Tower, of course, Big Ben, New York's World Trade Center, and then the Centrepoint Tower in Sydney, Australia. Quite a few people have said they'd like to personalize this quilt. That's a great space for lighthouses, churches, windmills, things that might be very specific that you would want to put into your particular quilt. I live in Huntsville, Alabama, which is Rocket City, and we have one of the Saturn V rockets right along the highway that everybody knows and sees, and that is a great piece to go in that particular one of those places. So all I have to do is be able to tell you exactly what the dimensions are of that space, and if you can draw a straight line to make your design, you can paper piece it. Just take straight lines for paper piecing. And there's also four little houses. They're called Little Houses in the City, and they sit at north, south, east, and west. Those also would be really fun to personalize, either with the colors of homes that you've lived in or the addresses. You could put the address number on it and things like that. So that is coming. I don't want to put the horse too far in front of the cart, but that you will have that information for you going forward. I do hope that, now some of you are done, but if you're not done, I do hope that you've read the detailed blog that came out. I put it out on the first of the month, or now usually it's been going up the day before the first of the month when we release the patterns a lot of times. And of course, the pattern instructions. And then there were two videos, one I had done last summer, and then the supplement that I did just a few weeks ago to get you kind of up close and personal. I'm not going to show any of those this morning. They're on the website and they're on YouTube, and you're welcome to look at those. And I encourage you to do that. That's why they're there. The things that I want to talk about, a lot of times after I put the blog up and then someone asks a great question and I go back and update the blog. So one of the things I discovered in working with putting these pieces together, and I had probably forgotten it when I made mine last summer, is that it is easy with these, and I'll show you this later with the document camera, but as these road strips get put together, once you start to pin them in place, if you don't have your seams really secure and with a fairly small stitch, they start to come apart on you right away as you're trying to pin these together. And besides being annoying, you have to stop what you're doing and go back and sew those up and close those. So it really helps to either use a much smaller stitch or back stitch or stay stitch in all of those edges around on all of these circular edges, and I'll show you that up close when I turn on the document camera. That's really helpful. It takes a little time, but it saves you time for not having to stop when you think you're ready to pin and you find that they're coming apart. So that's important. Thread color, I've been asked about that. Thread color, when you're sewing dark to dark like these, when you're doing the roads, It does help to use a dark thread, particularly if you tend to use a longer stitch. I sew my piecing stitch is a 2.0, and that's fairly small. But you could, if you had a longer stitch, you might see it in the seams if you were using light thread. Now, having said that, I didn't change the thread color on mine when I worked on this quilt that I'm going to show you. But you certainly can. And my big tip is when you're sewing on black fabric, use navy blue thread. If you ever have to pick something out, you can see it a lot more easily than you could black on black. And the opposite is true. When you're sewing navy blue, use black thread for the same reason. So our eyes aren't what they used to be, and anything we can do to help make it a little easier for us to be able to unsew, because we all have to unsew from time to time. That's just a little tip I learned years ago, and that's a good one to have. And the other thing you will discover with this is pins are your friend. It's going to take a good bit of pins to hold all this together. I spent a lot of time doing the pinning, but it was really worth it. You don't want to just start sewing and hope it all fits when you get to the outside edge, because there's a lot of fabric around these circles. We're going to sew three circle seams here to get this all together. So that's really helpful. The next thing that's very important as you make these arcs is, so that everything will fit together, is that you really got to get your 1/4 of an inch as close to your perfect measure as you can. Really check that carefully so that they all fit together nicely. Okay. Then the pressing at the end, once the other question that comes up is, okay, I've got these on here, how do I press them? I pressed the first one, which I put the inner road that I put on the Mariner's Compass, I pressed toward the inner road. Then I made the upper road and put the upper road around the outside of the small houses ring. The reason I did that is so that when it's a lot of work and it's a lot in your hands, that big ring of small houses. And if I were to save this for last, then I've also got that entire middle, the Mariner's Compass and the inner road, as in my hands as well as part of it. So Wendy recommended that you put the inner road on the compass and then the upper road on the small houses, and then finally join them together by sewing the ring that joins the inner road to the lower edge of the small houses. And that is what I did in mine, and what I recommend that you do. But for pressing, it tends, when you're sewing circular things like this, you like to, the quilt's going to want you to press away from the center, so because there's more room on the outside as you go. And that's what I thought originally, and I wrote that as I was writing up my blog instructions. And then I went back and actually looked at my finished quilt, the one there that's on the wall, and I could see that I had pressed the seams always toward the road. That upper seam is pressed in toward the upper road, and then of course on the inside it's pressed in. And that just gave me a little bit of definition of the road. And I also, of course, I did a tremendous amount of stitching in the ditch on this quilt, lots and lots of, which isn't really stitching. There's some misunderstanding. They think, I've heard people talk about stitch in the ditch, thinking that if you have pressed the seams open, when you lay it flat, when you're stitching in the ditch, you're only sewing on the threads that join the seam. No, my stitch in the ditch, I'm still sewing on fabric. It's just that there's not that noticeable ridge that you would have if you had pressed the seams to one side. So we'll talk much more about quilting way down the road. But anyway, so that's what I did. But you can decide how. Sometimes your quilt just fights you and says, no, this is how I want to be pressed. And if that's the case, then just let it tell you how to press it. That no one is going to see your seams on the inside when it's all done. So just give that some thought. The other thing that has been a challenge throughout this year. First of all, let me say this is a challenging quilt, and all of you who are still here working on this, I say that you're great. Congratulations. I'm thrilled that you're still here. If you haven't started yet, or you're really thinking hard about, gee, I really would like to make this, it is not too late. You've still got more than half the year. These patterns are up all the way through the end of the year for us here at the Quilt Show, and the blogs remain, the videos remain, so there's a lot lot of help, and you can get these done. Really, at this point, the hardest part, I think, personally, is over. And everything going forward from here, month by month, is just going to fall into place nicely. I think you'll find that to be the case. But one of the things about a round quilt is, and round shapes and our wedges and things, it's very hard to have real measurements of what things are. If you were making a block that had 4.5-inch squares unfinished, I could tell you this is 4.5 inches unfinished. But this has been a little bit more challenging. But there is a measurement that I can give you for this. When this circle is completely done and has the upper road secured, sewn to your small houses, from edge to edge in all directions. It's a circle, so measure north, east, south, and west, the diagonals, things like that, including the seam allowances, is 43.5 inches. Or thereabouts. I'm at 99%, pretty close to 43.5 inches. So I wouldn't sweat it if you're off by 1/8 in either direction. It's fabric, and I always say it's a good thing it's not stained glass because it doesn't bend, but we can ease to fit and make things work. But that's the number that we're after. If you wanted and many of you want a real hard number, 43.5, edge to edge, seam allowances included. So, okay, let me just show you what I'm talking about with a little bit of these, with the document camera. So let me make a switch. There we go. Okay, this is Pam Erickson. She's one of the Sunday so-and-sos, and she happily volunteered to work ahead just a little bit so that I could have some things to show you for this live, as well as for writing the blog and having step-by-step instructions. So I didn't have to make another one of these. This is her center. She made the center. She made half the roads that I used for the blog, and then I finished sewing the rest of the center, and I sewed it to the quilt completely. And that's where you got the pictures from on the blog. Now, just the other day, having come up with this good idea that other people have suggested as well, as the stay stitching. And so that's what I did here, and I think you can see if I turn this just right. And I use the stay stitching. I just used the regular light thread. I made it a 3.0 stitch. You don't want to go like a gathering stitch, real long stitch, but it can be longer than a normal piecing stitch. And I sewed from this side. Pam pressed every one of her seams open. So by stay stitching, it does a couple of things. One, it's going to secure those seams and keep them from coming open as you're trying to pin this into the small houses. And two, it keeps those seams in the direction that you have them. Hers are open. So by working like this, when I go to pin this and put the rest of the quilt on it, this is the part that's going to be up. I'm not going to see those seam allowances. They're going to be on the underneath. So that's just another advantage that it'll keep them. On mine, I pressed all of my seam allowances in one direction. So I didn't have seams open, but I still have the issue of making sure that the seams didn't flip and flop and get back. So as I've mentioned, now we've got this part done. So this part, and isn't this beautiful? She just did such a great job. I love her colors, and the black and white star is just fabulous. Mariner's Compass. Okay, and then even better is her middle. It's just, she put a different tree color fabric on every tree, and it's fabulous. I just love it. Her background fabric is wonderful. It's really, really great. So that's the situation there. I went ahead and stay stitched the edge of that as well, just to keep that. And I did the stay stitching on this inside for the same reason. Especially, and again, when you're doing the stay stitching, and this is a little awkward because this is big. Okay. Again, some of the seams are pressed to one side because that's what happened when they were being paper pieced, and then some of the seams are pressed open. So by doing my stay stitching and the stay stitching is about 1/8 of an inch in. You don't want it in 1/4 of an inch because then it'll show on the front. And that happens to me sometimes where it gets out of whack. And when I'm finishing the quilt, I go, oh, look, there's a couple of stay stitches. I just use my stitch ripper and pull those offending stitches out. But by having this stay stitched along, it helps to prevent it from stretching, and it keeps those seam allowances where you want it to go. So as I mentioned earlier, and Wendy's directions tell you to, at this point, add the upper road to the top of the small houses, to the tree side. Okay. And whenever we sew machine piece, curves. You want the roundy part, the part that, in this case, this is the roundy part. Okay, the top of the trees is the roundy part, and the road is it's convex and concave, but you don't need to remember that. And then this part, see, so here's what the issue is. You got this one going up, on the underneath one goes up, and the lower one goes down. That's why we pin. But every one of these seams that you have on the backside has a seam for you to match to. And then you just kind of have to, as I've mentioned several times, ease to fit to get from place to place. I put lots of pins on here, and this took me about an hour to pin it all, and it just takes a long time. And then once that is sewn, as I said, I press toward the road, so I would press that up, and then it's time to join the middle to the compass. Join your middle to the stars. Okay. So again, for piecing, you want the roundy part, the convex part, to be flat on the table. And what I did with this, because it's a little confusing to figure out how you're going to lay this, is I then put, and Pam's really going to have to work on this because she's got kind of specific ideas where these fabrics match together. I don't know what they are, and I told her I wasn't sewing this part. She gets to do that. But I lay it out where I can see the way it's supposed to look, and then I know where to pin. And I just start pinning at one intersection where it's supposed to go, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, all around. And once you get that all done, and then you're ready to sew. Okay. And then when you take it out of the machine, and well, first of all, you get to the end and it fits. Everything works. You're like, oh, this is fabulous. And then you get it all sewn together and you press it. In this case, I said that it would be probably easier. It would make sense to press away from this inner road, but I know because I can see it on my quilt, I can feel it. I pressed in toward the inner road so that it would have a little bit of a definition. The road is above the houses. So that's just the idea of kind of some tips and that it's written about in the blog, and but sometimes it helps just to see it in video. So let's go back to come back here for just a second. All right, so the next thing I'm going to show you is some of the photos from the forum. And yes, there have been problems in the last few days with the forum. We know that. They're working on it. I think it's fixed, and it's technical stuff, and it's just amazing. And it'll work in one browser and it won't work in another, but somebody else's computer, it works in their browser and it doesn't work in the other. I don't know. So they're doing everything they can to get this done. That's just the way it is. So let me show you a few photographs, and then I'll take a look and see if you've got any questions for me. All righty then. Here we go. Okie dokie. These are just a few that I snapped right off the forum. This one is by C. Jane Agar, or something like that, Agar. Sorry, Jane, if I have mangled your name, or CJ. So let me make it a little bigger for you. I thought this was great. That blue sky is just lovely. It's it's really pretty. It's a twilight scene or something, an evening scene. So it's just really, really nice. So there's one. And almost everybody who put a picture up said, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It fit. So that's exactly what I want. This one's by Cindy R. She's one of my students. I'm teaching a year-long class in this at a local store. We meet 2 hours, one Saturday a month, so I can help them stay on track. And Cindy has a fantastic fabric stash, and she's got a great eye and great sense of color. She used a gray, I think it's a grunge, for her road. She wanted kind of more of an asphalty sort of a gray road. So it's beautiful. She's got hers all set too. And let's go to the next one. Okay, this one is by Janet P. I took this off of the website, off the forum, and hers is really beautiful too, and she was so happy that it was good and all flat and ready to go. Then we've got, oops, let me go to my next one here. Okay, this one was Josephine G. See, so when you post a picture, you never know where they might show up. Okay, this is Josephine's. And I thought this was really neat. Look what she did too. She has different color big trees, you know, her bushy kind of trees. And then she's got lollipop trees. I just thought those were adorable. And she just threw this in. This is a great quilt for you to be able to make it your own and do some things that are just fun. I know there are people making it out of wool. I am anxious to start to see some of those. I know there are people that are making it smaller, 75%, some 50%. That's really, really something. So that's some more ideas. And it's just a good quilted that you can make it your own. This woman is one of our members on the forum. She goes by Libby. Her name is Liberata, and Libby lives in Switzerland. And I just think what a small world, really, that I can be sitting here in my little house in Huntsville, Alabama, and I can be looking at the work of Libby from Switzerland. And now I can share it with all of you. So she's got some great things going on here. And it looks to me, if I can tell, it's a little hard to tell, but I think, let me see if we make it any bigger. Oh, yeah. The background fabric around her mariner's compass is different from the background fabric that she's got out here. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if the next thing she's planning to do is different background fabric on the tall buildings when she gets to those. So that's just another way to personalize the quilt and make it your own. This one is is Pam's that I'm working on, and it was the photograph that I put on the blog. I just wanted you to be able to see it here because I love this quilt. When she first showed it to us, she did things that would not have occurred to me that I love. First is the different color backgrounds to the mariner's compass. That's just spectacular. Why didn't I think about that? It wouldn't have occurred to me. It's wonderful. Then she has a different background here that I showed you kind of up close. It's got little dots and stuff on it. It's really, really great. Her houses are just happy houses. They're colorful and just pretty. But I do love the different green trees. And of course, I was working from the kit, and there were only 2 greens in the kit, and so I followed the directions. But I do own a sinful amount of fabric, so I could have chosen some other greens. But so that's Pam's quilt, and I think that's just really, really great. And then I have one more. My other Pam friend, this is Pam R. Also Pam E and Pam R, they're both Sunday So-and-Sos, which is the group that gets together here at my house one Sunday a month. And I cannot stress enough how valuable a personal group is. If you can get a group of a few friends to get together. I really didn't expect it to grow to 15 people, but anyway, I digress. But it's just a great way. And all it takes is one person to say is, hey, would you be interested? And all of a sudden, yes, there's interest. And now that we can start to get back together again, we did a lot of stuff by Zoom this year with the Sunday So-and-Sos. We Zoomed whenever we didn't feel like we should be together, we Zoomed. But this one is Pam R's, and Pam loves William Morris fabric, and none of that is in here, but her quilts tend to have that kind of soft kind of feel to them. This one is so pretty. She brought it. We met on Sunday, the Sunday So-and-Sos, and she brought it to show us. And as soon as she opened it, we all just went, oh, wow, that's so pretty. And I want to show you this background fabric. This is a great background fabric. This is a Tim Holtz, who's a designer for Free Spirit. It's maps. It's maps of the world. And it says Pacific Ocean. There's whatever country that is. It's just perfect for a quilt that's called Color My World, and that it's around the world and all of this. And look at her beautiful mariner's compass fabrics. And then she did she kind of said she sort of wanted the cobblestoney sort of feel too. So she used a black and white plaid kind of a checky plaid color for her road. And you don't even notice that when you see it from a distance. But up close, you just want to see it more. You go, ooh, let me see that. So let me see that. So great job for all of you folks, and I really appreciate that. You didn't even know I was going to show your stuff. So let me go back and come back to you here. And okay, so we'll leave that while I go take a look and see if there are any questions. See if any of you are out there. I mean, I assume you're out there. So let me see. All right, let me start up here at the top. I know a lot of them start in the beginning with Welcome, welcome. The first person says hello. Anybody out there? Okay, we got Texas. We got Florida. Arizona. Okay, Pennsylvania. Oh, Australia. Fabulous. 3 a.m. Saturday. Finally. Well, Pauline, good morning. I hope you're going to get some more sleep. There's Chile. Vania. Buenas tardes. Fabulous. Great. Everett, Washington. All right, let's see if we Seattle Space Needle. Yep, that would be a good one. Virginia. I learned to be a quilter in Virginia way back many years ago, 1985. Memphis. Okie dokie. San Diego, Pensacola. All righty. Kentucky. The whole pattern's not. Okay, people were asking for the whole pattern. Nope, you can't get the whole pattern. You get them once a month. There's our Rondi, Livermore. Hello, Rondi. Some folks are having trouble with freezing. I know John's on the other end, and he's on the other side of the country, so he helps to watch after this. Yeah, all right. Glue-based pin, easier on my fingers and hands, you bet. Elmer's washable, if you don't have Roxanne, that's right. That's another good possibility. It takes a little time too, but it can hold things for you. Candy says, I'm so far behind, but this is one quilt I'm determined to finish. You know, it's not a race. Somebody has to be first and somebody else has to be last. And in all my classes, I tell every group of students, there's no extra credit for being first and there are no demerits for being last. Sometimes you just have to work at whatever pace you need to work at. And getting it done eventually is better than not ever getting it done at all. Okie dokie. There's Pam E on there, my Sunday so-and-so. She's Pam Erickson. She's the one whose quilt we've got here that I've been working on. Great question from Brenda. Would you remove the fabric behind the treetops? You can. You don't have to. I knew I was going to machine quilt this on my long arm, so I didn't worry about thickness. Back in the old days when I hand quilted everything, absolutely, I cut the extra fabric away. You just decide if you'd like to do that or not. Oh, good. Somebody says that's the background I'm using. I wonder if she's talking about the Tim Holtz. That would be pretty cool. And, oh, I meant to show Paula's quilt. Yeah, Pam reminded me. Okay, let me see if I can pull that one back up. It's in Tennessee, cloudy. Sweden, Birmingham, Alabama, just down the road a couple hours. Barbara Colvin says, my compass is 1/8 inch smaller. I did block it. Can I still make it work? Yes. A little assertive pressing, a little assertive pinning, and it will all come together. It's what I always said. It's fabric, not glass, and you can make it work. Not a problem. 1/8 of an inch across the whole surface of this, around that circle, is not a big deal at all. There's Germany. We got British Columbia and Vancouver, Michigan. All righty. Okay, our Australian friend's going to go get some more sleep as soon as we finish up here. All right. I've been asked this, and I need to find out, do your videos go away at the end of the year? I think not, but I'm going to verify that for sure. And when I get an answer, I'll post an answer there. I think they're hanging around for a while anyway, especially the fact that they're on YouTube. All righty. Good. Somebody said that she was a little concerned about the paper piecing method, but now she loves it. So, yeah, there's a good thing. Okay. So Marlene wants to know about the template purpose. She's talking about the little layout guideline for the template. It helps you to, I just used a chalk marker to get those angles. Just by having those angles, instead of working with a square or a rectangle of fabric, it makes it a little bit easier as you're sewing the arcs. If you find you don't need it, then don't use it. That's kind of that. Okay, another fan of stay stitching. And yeah, and somebody else says they hope that the videos are there. That's really good too. Cool. Okay, yeah, the St. Louis Arch. My children used to live in St. Louis, and that would be another place. So let me come back now. All right. I didn't get to show Paula's. Paula, did I put it on my blog? No. Another one of the students and I had it. Let me see if I can pull it, because hers is made from, all right, let me get it. Okay. I have her in here. So there it is. I missed it when I was, after I got passed out. Okay. All right. Paula has 50 years of sewing garments under her belt. And every one of these fabrics is a silk or a brocade or a heavy duty garment fabric. Let me show you this blue, her background fabric here, this kind of blue-gray. That is a heavy, thick, like a brocade kind of a fabric. All of these trees, and it doesn't show up well in the photograph, I'm sorry to say, is silk. And all of those silks, most of them had to be stabilized with a lightweight interfacing. So some of these are silk ties. She has done a tremendous amount of work using up. She said she had bins and bins and drawers of all these leftover pieces from garment construction, and she was determined to use them. And I wish you could see it with the light on it. I'm going to have to take some better pictures in class next month. This shimmers like crazy. That red and that white, those are pure silks, and they just shimmer. See the brocade in the background there, how that goes around? That is just, but it's just great to see people go ahead and figure out how to do something, and that's a standard pattern that many people are doing, and absolutely make it your own. So I think we are right on time. So that's going really well. You can always ask questions through the forum. I do sometimes get questions on the blog. We're thrilled to see your work. So I do encourage you to take a look at the forum and go in there and see. One of the things that's different I'm finding about the forum, and I don't know why it is, right now sometimes it can be hard to hit the like button. I'll try to click on it, it won't work, but sometimes it does. And sometimes when I click on it, then it says unvote. Okay, that, what the person who posted it sees is that it was liked. What I see is that it says I voted for it, but okay, that's fine. But we used to, in the old forum, there were many, many likes. People would hit like constantly, like. And I like that, because to me, it's just like on Facebook. It's a way of, it just says, I see you, I read what I appreciate that you took a minute to post something here. And there are very few likes coming on this new forum. You can see who has liked it. Next month, because next month's going to be easy, I think I'll take a little time. We'll be a month further down the road with the forum. So I think I'll share my screen for next month with the forum and show you. I'm learning, just like you are, how best to navigate it. I love the notifications button. I have subscribed to the Color My World topic, the sub forum. You can subscribe to that, and then in the notifications you get just a little notifications. I don't get them by email anymore, and that suits me just fine too. I don't need them as email, but I can see these little notifications, and it'll tell me somebody liked it, or somebody made a post, or somebody made a comment, and I can click right there and check it and see what it says. So there's a lot of good things, and it's getting better all the time. It is a big elephant to eat for the folks that are getting this thing all put together, and we really, really appreciate all the work that's gone into it. So I appreciate that. So next month, tall building number 1, left and right. And they are not exact opposites of each other. They got a couple different, one of them has different windows on tall building number 1. You'll make 4 of each of those. So for the next 4 months, June, July, August, September, we'll make 8 tall buildings each month. 4 lefts, 4 rights, tall building 1. Then in July, tall building 2. August is tall building 3, and September's tall building 4. And like I said, you will find that so easy. You've gotten to this stage. It is all just happy times from here going forward. So until June the 4th, which is the 4th Friday,